Welcome everybody. This is Bill Murphy at ASP Quick Supply, Bowman and Cascade, and you are on Technical Talks. It's 12:30, so we're going to get started, and I'm going to introduce my guest speaker here pretty soon. You can already see him, and you already see his name on there. And then hit this pad right here. See the arrow down?
Yeah.
There's yours. Welcome to, I already said the company name's part of Hale Holdings. I don't know if you've seen it. We put out a big push on LinkedIn that we have all new websites, and we're doing a big focus on the core values, and the history of the company is on there. John and Mike Hale have a video.
You guys have done a great job with that. The Hale Holdings has been all over my LinkedIn.
Oh, really?
So,
Oh, good.
yeah,
Well,
nice
now I'm
work.
seeing it again. So
Nice
look it
work.
up, guys. Look us up. Give us feedback. And we still represent. This is always, inaccurate because it's constantly changing and growing with how many customers we have and sales staff and CPES. And we're blessed with a lot of warehouse people and drivers that keep us running. And the one in the bottom middle is still one. We keep adding companies and branches and states, and we just ride that engineer like a rented mule.
You cover a lot of ground, Bill.
Yep, we cover that area, and we have friends in the grayed out areas. So where you don't see us, doesn't mean our guest product isn't there. It is there. It's all over the country. We'll get into that in a little bit. As you know, we have a whole lot of solutions. And if you don't know us, go visit our locations and go see us. The banner behind me says ASP because I'm in one of the ASP locations. We're in Kansas City right now live. If I was in one of the other branches, one of the other companies, I'd have their banner up, but I'm still representing all of them. And I hope you're seeing this. We'll see if Mackenzie texted me. Product displays and warehouses. We even give tours. Thank you, Mackenzie. We even give tours to some city and DOT folks if they want to see what we have. I've done it in a number of locations, most recently in Bowman Construction Supply in Colorado Springs, which is already outdated because we just opened our brand new branch there last week.
I heard that.
So vast inventory ready to deliver. I just talked to one of our drivers here today. He grabbed a little pizza on his way through. Thanks to Todd buying lunch for us here. And I already said his name. And there it is. There's the intro. I didn't bring your bio or anything. Guys, this is my longtime friend. I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Todd Noble, you were in Lee Summit at the time, and it was 2014, September 2014 that I joined us.
Yeah. So
And
12 years, 13 years,
Yeah.
I've been working here. Yeah, when Bill originally reached out to me about doing this, I kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit, knowing that your customers see a lot of technical talks. They come to Clean and Green. They've heard Flexamat before,
Oh, yeah.
so I don't want to give them just the same presentation. So the thought process here was to how to mix it up, how to take a little bit deeper of a dive. Let's show inspectors what to be looking for out in the field, and then when we're doing that, so I've been with Flexamat for a year now and been on the road a lot. And so I tried to incorporate some new projects that we've installed just this year so that ASP, Bowman, Quick Supply can actually see some of their actual projects from this year in some of these photos. So,
well, I'm going to hand the keys over to you, but housekeeping, for those of you who are new with us, you're all going to get a continuing education PDH certificate from Madeline or Mackenzie. Yes, Madeline's back with us again. Now we have a powerhouse marketing team. It might be as early as later this week, or it might be early next week. And then we're also recording this. It'll go up on our YouTube channel. Reminder, we don't use the chat feature, but we do use the Q&A. So when I hand the keys over to Todd, he's going to take over the presentation. I'll come back on at the end and we'll cover some Q&A if we have any, or if some friends and coworkers have texted me. But I'm going to scoot out of the way, and remember, use the Q&A feature.
Don't go too far, Bill.
I'm going to go over.
What Bill doesn't know is that he's going to be quizzed at the end of this. So be careful with your
being put on the spot.
Be careful with your text messages to Bill during the presentation because he should.
I got to pay attention.
He should actually be paying attention. A number of the things that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do a 5-question quiz at the end of this.
All right.
And we'll see how Bill holds up to it.
Might get a fake phone call and have to leave the studio.
Grab some pizza real quick. Well, hey, another thing that this first year with Flexamat has given me is a lot of windshield time. I cover 5 states: Arkansas, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, and so a lot of windshield time allows for a lot of reflection and perspective. And one of the perspectives that I've gained is how much ground you cover, Bill. So I only got exposure to Bill when he would come into my bubble in Kansas City. And I've seen you this year. I think I was trying to write it down. Denver, Fort Collins, St. Louis, Richmond, Omaha, Kansas City, Steamboat Springs, And at every single one of these conferences, Bill is a leader, usually a host. He is connecting people, and he's making our industry smile, because whenever you have a conversation with Bill, you can't help but leave that conversation with a smile. So if there was a Hall of Fame for erosion control, you're a first round ballot guy.
Hey,
so hopefully,
nice.
hopefully you know that. I would also I thank ASP for this opportunity to present today. I also thank ASP for 13 years of professional development, and very excited to continue that partnership. So
That's awesome.
let's jump into Flexamat.
I'm trying to scoot out of the way because you're going to have to
Okay.
use those T-pads.
All right,
Make
let
sure
me get
you're
in here.
comfortable.
I would also like to give a shout out to a small engineering firm in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Yeah.
Napier Engineering. Brett Napier specified Flexamat the first time I ever saw it 19 years ago on the city of Leavenworth landfill. And the message that I heard from the crew installing Flexamat on a landfill letdown channel, the same message I heard from them 19 years ago is the same message I'm giving today. Flexamat reduces maintenance. It replaces riprap and reduces maintenance. So hopefully you'll hear that today. Let's jump into this. We'll try to get a little bit technical with some of this stuff, and let's just have fun with it. Can you drive on Flexamat, or can you drive on riprap? No, you cannot.
No, you cannot drive on riprap.
You can try. This gentleman certainly tried it.
Further than I would have guessed.
And but can you drive on Flexamat? Yes, you can. This is 8.5 acres of Flexamat that was installed in a spillway in Garnett, Kansas, and we'll get into that one a little bit later here. So let's talk tech with Flexamat. What is it? It's a 5,000 psi concrete, 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches by 2.25 inches tall. It's in a pyramid shape, and it's embedded into a high strength geogrid, 2,055 pounds of tensile strength in 2 different directions. And that strength of that geogrid and that pyramid shape allow for it to be rolled up and delivered to a job site. So our roll widths, 4-foot wide up to 16-foot wide. We can do rolls up to 125 feet. You do not want that. That's going to be way too heavy to lift on a job site. We usually break it into 50-foot lengths to make it more manageable for job sites. But we do custom lengths. So if you say, Todd, I need 12 foot by 37 feet delivered to Lenexa, Kansas, we will cut that, roll it up, and deliver that to your job site. So when we deliver to the job site, it comes on a flatbed truck. We can fit up to 4,800 square feet. That is equal to 32 truckloads of 18-inch riprap. So again, one truck compared to 32 truckloads of our biggest foe, which is 18-inch riprap. You can see there on the rolls that they also have some coding on there. If you look real close, it'll say 15.5 by 50s. And there's an arrow pointing to one side of the rolls. They're also marked with numbers. You see 242 there, 239. That's because we do a layout for all of our installs so that contractors know exactly where to put the rolls. A lot of times when you're getting 7 truckloads arriving to your job site, it's trying to figure out where they fit in that jigsaw puzzle without a picture is bad news. So we've given them a picture up front. A lot of people call them shop drawings. We call them layout drawings, showing them exactly where those rolls go. All the rolls come with lifting straps to pick off of the truck. So let's get into the different types of Flexamat. We have a variety of options here. So standard is where it all began. So you got your 5,000 PSI concrete embedded into a geogrid, and then underneath that is an Excelsior blanket. Excelsior blankets from our industry, we all know, hold moisture on top of vegetation and prevent erosion. If I had a handful of Excelsior is shaved aspen fibers. If I had a handful of Excelsior and I sprayed that with water, I'd see that grow 4 times in size in my hand. What that's doing is that's holding moisture on top of your seed to encourage germination.
That's even more than the Grinch's heart, because his grew 3 sizes that day.
Really?
Yeah, just came up with that.
All right. See, this is what he's good for, is the smiles. All right, so that allows us to get vegetation. We've also made an upgraded feature by adding a layer of turf reinforcement mat to make our plus version. That additional layer is a permanent layer. So the Excelsior blanket is going to break down and biodegrade over 18 to 24 months. So it's eventually going to disappear. That layer of Recyclex turf reinforcement mat is going to be a permanent layer that reinforces stems and root structure. That's going to be, so we're going to use it for our high flow outlets, high flows around streams and creeks. It's basically used on 95% of our projects now. So if you use one of those two backings, you will have this vegetation. This is a GoPro attached to a light pole to show the grow-in period of Flexamat. So it eventually just disappears into the vegetation. So here's what it looks like from vegetation growing up through it. And more impressively is the root structure that you get underneath. So there is weight to our product, 10 pounds per square foot to help hold everything down. But this root structure and stems of vegetation lock everything into place. So the other option is a non-woven geotextile, a 10-ounce non-woven geotextile backing. And this is going to be for applications where you know you're not going to get vegetation. So Bill, think about underneath of a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get sunlight underneath of a bridge, so you're not going to get vegetation. If you're in the bottom of a stream where you have constant standing water, that's a waste thinking that you're going to get vegetation to establish there. So you'd use a non-woven geotextile there. Also think about drivable surfaces where you want to always delineate where you're supposed to be driving. You don't want vegetation there, so you'd use a non-woven geotextile. So another thing that we have added here in recent years is an extension. This extension allows us to lock everything into place as a system. So basically that extension is we're extending the geogrid and the underlayment, the turf reinforcement mat or non-woven geotextile, extending it out 1 to 2 feet past the end of the roll so it can go underneath of the adjacent mat. You drive anchors through that to connect everything together as a system. Think about pipe joints. Pipe joints are the weak point of pipe. So our weak point is our seams. So if we can extend that 2,000-pound tensile strength grid underneath the adjacent mat next to it, now we're locking in as a system and eliminating those weak joints. So here's what that looks like in the field. So when you are an inspector and you are visiting the site for the first time and you're seeing Flexamat unrolled, before they unrolled this roll had an arrow pointing to the left-hand side. Mm-hmm. That left-handed arrow was to show them that that's the side that their geogrid extension is on. So they unroll this, it exposes that extension, and then they unroll the next mat right over the top of it. And now when you run anchors along this seam, you've created a interlocking system for the Flexamat. Okay, let's talk geogrids because there's some fun in that aspect as well. So, wow, this is probably 10 years ago. ASP, myself, and Flexamat all created this format together on a project in Lenexa, Kansas. We were about 3 weeks before bid. Oof. The city of Lenexa says, hey, pump the brakes. We don't want to use this product because we're going to do native vegetation and we're going to maintain that with controlled burns, meaning that they're going to burn off their vegetation and we're worried about it melting the grid. Flexamat said, we're worried about melting the grid too. So let's dive into this because if it's a thing in Kansas, it's going to be a thing in other places as well. So reached out to our partner Husker that makes our GeoGrid for our standard version and asked them, by chance, is there a flame resistant grid? They said, yes, it's used in the mining industry. So it's used in the mining industry overhead to keep rock from falling down on miners. So if you're ever in a mine, look up, and if you see a neon yellow net, that's our flame resistant grid. So we were able to use that grid on this project. Basically, everywhere you see grass around this trail is Flexamat. Now, they could have used Flexamat in the riprap area as well. They did not choose to do that on this project. I stocked this project for 8 years because it was our first time ever using it. We wanted to know that it was successful, but they were never doing their controlled burns. So every time I drove down I-70 and I saw smoke rolling across the highway, I knew that farmers were doing controlled burns of their farms, and I always drove to Lenexa. And after 8 years, it finally hit. They finally did their first controlled burn, and I walked all over this site taking pictures every time I saw neon yellow. I won't bore you with those 100 pictures, but just they all look this exact same way. No melted grid. That's what we wanted to see. We're still getting the 2,000 pounds of tensile strength, holding the whole system together, and they're able to maintain their vegetation by doing controlled burns. Army Corps of Engineers is now testing Flexamat for um, burn barriers. And so we don't have the results of that yet, but we're very excited that they've taken note of a product option that we have here. So let's talk testing. Erosion control testing is done the same way by all your different players that do testing. We partnered with TRI. They put you on a slope and they put your product in a flume and on top of soil, and they turn the faucets on up top and they increase that flow over a duration of time. They're taking intermittent measurements, and when you lose a half inch of soil, you fail. Half inch, Bill, half inch, and you're done. So here's our results: 24 plus pounds per square foot of shear, 19 plus feet per second for velocity. Why the pluses? The pluses were because we had maxed out TRI's flume. They were used to testing erosion control blankets, turf reinforcement mats. They were not used to testing a hard armor system quite like this, and we maxed out their flume. So that's why they assigned us those numbers. So where does that fit in the landscape of erosion control options today? And if there is an important slide to note, this is the one. This shows basically all your different options as an engineer for preventing erosion. One of the things that I like to note, of course, is 24-inch riprap. This is an 18-inch riprap. We're outperforming 24-inch riprap by double. The TRMs, you notice that they're on there a few different times. Why is that? We are denoting unvegetated, vegetated, partially vegetated, and fully vegetated. So the importance to note there is that grow-in period, you don't reach its full tested data until it's completely grown in. How long does that take? So for native vegetation, that could take a year to 2 years. So think about, you've installed a turf reinforcement mat, and then will you get a 2-inch rain event within 18 months?
If I'm involved, you certainly will.
100%.
Murphy's Law.
You always will. I'm going to show you where it's happened to me. This is the world that I used to live in. So I had access when I worked at ASP for a whole portfolio of erosion control products. And whenever I had installed a turf reinforcement mat and we got a 2-inch rain event, my first concern that following Monday was I got to go check that job site to see if it's still there, to see if it held up or not, or if we need to do some fixing. Flexamat, notice, unvegetated. We don't need that vegetation to reach peak performance. Right out of the box, we're outperforming 24-inch riprap. So that gave me the safety when somebody would reach out, a property owner, an engineer, and say, send me pictures and say, we have these erosion issues, and we didn't know exactly what the velocities or shear was. I knew that I had a tank in my portfolio that was outperforming everything else. So that's why it was my go-to for 13 years. So here's a map of all the different projects that we've done through July 2025. If we zoom in on this, it gets even more impressive. So why are we preferred over riprap? And it's maintenance. This is the same thing that I heard from that crew 19 years ago in Leavenworth, Kansas, is they're looking to reduce maintenance. That's twofold here. First off, the maintenance of continually putting more riprap that washes out. So if you get a 2-inch rain event through this area, some of this rock you're going to lose because it's not tied together with a geogrid. The other maintenance is mowing over the top of it. Only one of these can you mow over the top of, will disappear in vegetation and not be hazardous to flinging rocks as you mow over it. And then, like I said, we just disappear in vegetation. This is what a project looks like 15 years afterwards. We have a 75-year rating. Our GeoGrid is rated for 100 years. So we like to talk about flexibility because we produce in long straight rolls. So how does that go around curves and bends? Well, we're showing you here. We can bend around curves. These folks are installing our U-shaped anchors over that GeoGrid extension. They're doing it old school, as I call it, because we have a slide driver that will slide these right into place with a percussion hammer. And then we also have a higher end anchor, cross plate percussion anchor. Cross plate because the cross slips in between the blocks, and then it has a 6-foot cable with a gripple head on the end that pivots underground. So here's how this works. Here's all the different things you're going to need: drive rod, jack jaw, that is a gas powered T-post driver. So you're going to insert that anchor in between the blocks and stick your drive rod on your gas-powered T-post driver, zip that baby down 6 feet, pump this jack jaw on the cable 2 times. That turns that head sideways. I don't know if people can see me talking. Okay, so that turns that head sideways and creates a 6-foot cone of resistance underneath that mat, locking everything into place. Then just snip off the cables, and guess what? You can do 1-to-1 slopes now. So this prevents the mat from sagging down. If you reach out to us and say, what's the steepest slope we can do at Flexamat? We'll tell you, we do 1-to-1 slopes all the time with crossplate percussion anchors to just prevent that drooping that you can get from the mat. We'll also use them when we know that you're going to be pushing our mat near its peak test data. So we're easy to stage. This is another major benefit. If you were putting riprap in this median, where would you stockpile that riprap? How would you get access to it without shutting down traffic and being a hazard to folks? So they allow us to the messaging on the rolls allows us to be easily staged. And then we're safer to exit off the highway onto. Again, we showed what happens when you drive on riprap versus driving on Flexamat earlier.
Oh, don't do it.
So here we go. Let's install some Flexamat. How does this work? First, you're going to need to grade your slope, removing rocks, roots, any stumps that are sticking out of the ground. The reason we want those removed is they hold up the mat. We call this tenting. So if there's a 3-inch, 4-inch rock underneath your mat, there's a void space in between there. When it rains, water's going to hit in that void and reel out underneath the mat. So we want it smooth. We also need a layer of seed. It's a very important step. Put down your seed. We want vegetation to grow up through the mat. Easiest way to do it. And then you unroll your Flexamat over the top. So let's talk about let's talk about a detail, how to install Flexamat. We would like, if you're going to specify Flexamat, to include this detail if you're doing a channel. So let's talk about what's important. What are the important things to cover with a contractor that's installing Flexamat and you're showing them this detail? If they're installing a channel, number one, and most importantly, make it a channel.
Yeah.
So many times I will pull up to a job site and they're installing a channel and they have it graded flat.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
If you're doing a channel, make it a channel. It says right there, grade channel so that water will flow down the center of the channel. So we want that concentrated flow in the center of the mat. If you lay Flexamat flat, water is going to hit it. It's going to spread out and it's going to find the path of least resistance. That path of least resistance is where Flexamat isn't. That's on your sides. You will have no Flexamat, or you would have no erosion in your Flexamat area. You will have giant ditches on both sides because the water has found the path of least resistance. So
you got to recess that channel and keep the water on the protection.
Exactly. So if you have a side slope, so we're still looking at that picture up in the upper left corner. If you have a side slope, we're going to bury 2 blocks so that water stays on top of the mat. If there's not a side slope on the other side there, you just take us 2 blocks over the crest. And then the next important thing is to do an anchor trench. So you can see on that middle visual there, We've buried 3 blocks, and you can see the direction of flow so that water stays on top of it. When you've reached the end of a mat and you still need to protect an area, you stick the next mat underneath of it. So we shingle on top. Note number 3, you'll see there, again, we told the contractor, put down seed and fertilizer underneath of it first. So very important steps. So let's see some folks doing this. This is Lewisburg, Kansas. This is a project that ASP just shipped here recently, so I don't have vegetative photos of this, but let's talk this through. First off, we're installing an 8x50 mat.
I see that.
And this is installed next to a 15.5-foot mat that has a geogrid extension coming out the side of it. So you can see they've laid the first mat in the correct direction so that the geogrid goes underneath of the adjacent mat. And then you can also see that they've dug an anchor trench off to the right-hand side. So why are they doing the anchor trench now? Well, because it's easier. Dig that anchor trench now, and then you can unroll that mat and it'll just fall right into place. The other thing that I like about this photo is that open bag of seed. That tells me they are very engaged in seeding the area during install. These were first timers. They had never installed Flexamat before. They were
I'm proud of
they were pros by the end of the day. Let's watch them do. Another thing that I like them doing, they have a rubber track mini X here on top of the Flexamat. We don't want steel tracks on top of the Flexamat. And also, if this area wasn't protected yet and you have a giant excavator and you're right in your middle of your channel, you're messing it up as you're installing. So I like that they're doing rubber track. They're driving right on top of the Flexamat. They're also using a flat bladed mini X versus teeth. Teeth can poke down into the mat. A flat blade works much better. So they're doing everything right here. I like to send this video when somebody asks me, how quickly do you think I can install Flexamat? Yeah. This is 16 foot by 50 foot, 100 square feet. This is installed in 7 seconds. So the majority of installs look much more like the first video I showed you, but it does show you how quickly that this can go in. So imagine if you were doing riprap right there. You still have to put down geotextile. I live in Kansas and we get wind. So you're going to need to pin down that geotextile everywhere before you start putting in riprap. So even though this hasn't been anchored in place, there's a lot of anchoring that is required if you're going to put in riprap in this size of project as well. So that first detail I showed you was installing Flexamat in a channel that is parallel to flow. So this is McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas. And this is what it looked like after Flexamat was installed. This channel is a little bit different in that obviously you have big block on both sides of it. So you can lay it a little bit flatter here because you're maintaining the water, controlling that on both sides. You can see the mats are run parallel to flow because the seams running down the center there. And let's see what it looks like today. So Flexamat just completely disappears. I'm given that map that I showed you earlier. I drive all of my 5 states going and looking for those dots. They're so hard to find because they all look like this. Try driving around finding Flexamat when it's just all green grass. Okay, so this was a fun one. This was Northwest Wacomas. This is a children's park that has a kids train next to it. So what you see over there on the left-hand side is a kids train track. Very highly erosive soils, S-curved creek. We all know that's a recipe for disaster and is going to erode around this bridge. They needed to replace this bridge, and they also wanted to protect Flexamat or protect the stream and creek with Flexamat. So here's what that looked like. So I like this project because, again, just 2 dudes. We got an excavator operator and a guy down on the ground that is hooking up straps and flipping mats over. Right here, he is actually holding down those U-shaped anchors, and they're using the bucket to drive those down. I don't like that for safety reasons, but it does go to show you
get her done.
People can install Flexamat quick.
We're right at halftime, just so you know.
All right, here that is vegetated. Here's where it looked rounding the corner. That's what it looks like today. Again, only a few months since it's been installed, and that's what it looks like. So concrete line channels, we replace a lot of those. Here's one in St. Louis, Page Avenue. And here it was right after install, just starting to get vegetation when the flood comes through. So again, this is where in my previous life, I would be waking up knowing if this was turf reinforcement mat, I'm probably going to have to replace that. We didn't have to replace that with Flexamat. The weight of the material was able to hold it in place, and then that's what it looks like today. So let's talk about perpendicular to flow. So all the other areas that I covered earlier with parallel to flow are the same. Now we're just laying mats in perpendicular to flow because it's a super wide channel. So if you have a 52-foot wide channel, you just lay the mats in crossways. So here's Kingman, Arizona. They are putting down a non-woven geotextile. You're going to say, hey, Todd, why wasn't that attached to the back of the roll? Because I know that's how you guys do it. This was a large enough project that we were producing on site. So don't get excited by saying that. I've worked with Flexamat now for 14 years and only had it produced on site for one of my projects. So it takes a very large project to do that. But here's, it goes to show you that we can do that. So here you can see the mats are laid in perpendicular to flow. So slope armoring. Important things to note, we want to anchor trench that toe and anchor trench the top, and then we want to bury that leading edge. So if you have water coming in from the side of this, you just bury that. And here is a slope for BWXT. This is a nuclear power plant. That's the Ohio River, and that's what it looks like when you get a flood event that came through that area. Being a nuclear power plant, they have way more important stuff to worry about than maintaining riprap. So they put in Flexamat, and here's what it looked like after the first flood that came through. So again, you're going to get a flood event after install. Here's what it looks like today.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think that we'll ever be allowed back on site with a drone for a nuclear power plant. We had it took a lot to get those photos off of that site. So, all right. So here we got a slope. They've done everything right here. Buried that leading edge, buried the bottom edge, even put in sheet piling. Talk to your ASP rep if you'd like to install sheet piling at the base of your Flexamat as well. And here's what that looks like. All the other area where you see vegetation, you can see has eroded upstream from it, but this area is still that same elevation. It doesn't look hardly even touched. Roadside slopes, we do a lot of these. You can actually bury asphalt directly into the top of us to create that transition from water from the roadside down your slope. Here's what that looks like, fully protected. Litzinger Road. Pay attention, Adam Litigan. This was your project in St. Louis. This is an ecological center, so think lots of butterflies, natural vegetation, bees. These make you feel good about the environment. They have an S-curve creek that comes through, and if you look real close right above that D of Deer Creek, you can see an attempt at a retaining wall to hold that water back. Here's what it looked like in real life. So when this area floods, it was designed to overtop and was eroding the back of that wall. So they put in Flexamat, buried that leading edge, put in grout for the transition between the two. We don't have great vegetation because, again, this is an ecological center, so we're using native vegetation. So this is going to take 18 to 24 months to grow in, but eventually this will disappear too, and kids will be examining insects on top of this. So, all right. Let's talk about outlet armoring. High flows in this area. A couple things to note here. We're giving guidance to engineers for the protection area. So let's take a look at a 42-inch outlet with 100 CFS is going to be 16 foot wide, 20 foot long. And the important thing to do here whenever you're installing around an outlet is to bury the leading edge and fill in that transition with grout. Extremely important. Here's what it looks like if you have a slope up ahead of the of your end section. You'd grout in that area as well. So, and then what you end up with is something that looks like this. It just disappears in the vegetation. You can also get creative with your grouted area and create a splash pad. I love this because It makes it easier to maintain. When this thing fills up with debris, they can just take a mini X in here, scoop out that debris, and not have to worry about messing up any of the protected area. So here's an end section. Let's watch these gentlemen install. They have laid their Flexamat over the top of it, cutting out and removing the Flexamat that's not necessary, and then they've grouted that in. You also notice that they also have a defined channel. They haven't just laid it flat, so we like that. Shoreline armoring, you go a minimum of 3 feet extended below the normal water line, and then we're going to trench in the top of the mat. Here's what a homeowner was facing. They were losing real estate from wave action. They put in Flexamat. The rest of the neighborhood saw the Flexamat and convinced the HOA to collect money and install Flexamat in the entire pond. Do you have a good HOA?
I am the HOA.
My HOA took 2 months to approve a paint color. So
man.
I'm very impressed that these guys collected money. But here's what it looks like when it's fully vegetated. Grass just completely encapsulates the
Beautiful.
Flexamat. You can still see the Flexamat underwater, but you can mow right up to that edge. Here is Oberlin, Kansas wastewater treatment plant. I think this was a Lynn Ewald project, and they wanted to protect their shoreline with something that required little maintenance. We were an alternate to riprap on this job, and there's a rock quarry about a mile away. So as Lynn can attest to, we got smoked on this project for being a bid alternate. But again, the same theme that I heard 20 years ago, which was we don't want to deal with the maintenance of riprap. So they chose Flexamat. Here's what that looked like. Here's what that looked like 2 weeks ago. So here's your update, folks. I'm flying a drone over this wastewater treatment plant. This engineer was extremely impressed with these results and has specified another project
This engineer
in Nebraska. Thanks.
Extremely impressed.
Thanks, Bill. All right, so stream and river bank, we're installing parallel to flow. So again, we're anchor trenching that bottom and the top, and all of our leading edges, we're going to do an anchor trench for those as well. So let's look at this Marion, Iowa project. I call this our calendar shot project. This is a trail and was crossing a pedestrian bridge that ran over top of Squaw Creek, and it was right on a bend, so highly erosive area. And they knew that this area was going to flood and get over top. Here is that S-shaped creek. You can see the bridge abutments have just gone in, and they're going to install Flexamat in the running water. They've cut their leading edge, and they're burying that leading edge and unrolling Flexamat. Here's what it looked like during construction, post-construction, and then that's what it looks like today. So again, gave us a calendar project, but not to be outdone. Adams Park in Omaha, Nebraska, we were asked by this engineer, what geogrid strands can we cut to put in live plantings? And so we gave them a diagram of where to cut the geogrid to still maintain its structural integrity and install their live plugs. And this is what they ended up with. So just a couple of incredible projects for us. Okay, let's talk overflows and spillways. Lots of detention ponds. That means there's a lot of dams and overtopping areas that need to be protected. Flexamat is used on a lot of those applications. This is Barnes Water Quality Project in Colorado Springs. If you're familiar with the minor league team, the Vibe, that's a s'more, by the way.
That's cool, man.
Yeah,
I've
so
never seen that.
just up out of this picture, if you look real close and squint, you can see the stadium for their ballpark. And this is the detention pond that overflows into a creek area. So I don't have vegetated photos of this, but this is what it looked like during construction. Very impressive. Here's an even more impressive one. This is that project in Garnett, Kansas, that was 8.5 acres of Flexamat.
It was yours.
Yeah, I was out on this project a lot, and this is the town's drinking water. So when this baby overflows, it hits 8.5 acres of Flexamat on a curved shaped funnel. So a lot of needed to be definitely needed a higher strength protections here. So let's see what we did with the layout. We worked with the engineer they only had so much budget, so we needed to make sure that it came in on budget. And so we worked with the engineer on their layout up front so that we can know exactly how much material was going to be needed. You can see wherever we're readjusting to maintain perpendicular to flow, there's a little bit of waste from overlaps, and we were able to give the engineer all that information. So that's rows 1 through 41. And here's rows 42 through 78. This was actually 79 truckloads, Bill. Bill, do some math for me real quick. What's 79 times 32?
A bunch.
Because it takes 32 truckloads of riprap for every one truckload of
whatever it is.
So I think it's over 2,400 truckloads. So think about this dam. You are going to have 2,400 truckloads of riprap driving across that dam.
No thanks.
That's a rebuild your dam type moment.
Exactly.
And they did not want that, so that's why Flexamat was also used. When they're installing, so if you look real close, you can see the yellow, the neon yellow. That means that flame resistant geogrid, and that means that they're planning on maintaining this with controlled burns to kill off any unwanted vegetation. If you look real close, you can still see a pallet of anchors up there in the picture, and they haven't started cleanup. That's because they were still installing this. So this mat was vegetating before they had even finished installing it. Very impressive. Here's a video. Let's see what it looks like today. You're now flying over top of the weir. So when this when this lake fills up, it overtops that weir. You cruise around this corner, and so that's what it looks like today, folks.
Oh, when I was a kid, if that thing was over top and I'd run out there and try to slide down it. Safety, don't do that, folks.
We don't want you with your sled out here. So DOTs like us because we're a vegetated solution. We're safe to exit onto, and we reduce maintenance. Again, the maintenance of replacing riprap and being able to mow it. What are you going to do with weeds in your riprap? Spray it. Here is the first Flexamat project that I saw 14 years ago on a DOT letting for MoDOT that was called Tide Concrete Block Mat that sent me on the route to learning more about Flexamat. And as you can see, the very first project I was involved in got flooded. They always do. And here it held up to it, and here's what it looks like today.
Nice.
Let's talk KDOT because KDOT was a tough nut to crack. I approached them about giving us a headache. What's your biggest maintenance riprap headache? And they said, oh, there's a bridge in Norton County, Kansas. That is a pain. It's an S-curved creek that wipes out the riprap on one side only. So every 2 years, they're going in and replacing the geotextile and riprap in that area. So we came up with this system for them. The dark gray area is your plus version, which is the vegetated Flexamat. That light gray version underneath the bridge is the non-woven, because again, we're not going to get vegetation there because there's no sunlight.
You said that.
You're coming out the other side with plus because it'll vegetate again. And then if you look real closer, we're using percussion anchors to hold that down on that one side. So here it is being installed. This is old school, Bill. This is before we did the geogrid extension that came out the side to lock everything in. So what we were doing back then was overlapping. That was, again, adding weight.
Massive,
it was massive. It created little speed bumps and it increased cost because of that wasted material. So we don't have to do that today. But here they are grouting around that bridge abutment. That's what it looked like finished.
Still looks good.
You used this to promote this. You forgot to include this picture, Bill.
Yeah, I like that one.
This is where it becomes impressive.
Yeah, there's a series of like 4 of them. It's wonderful.
Exactly.
That's the best.
So, and then we also do access road armoring. So basically you're going to use a non-woven version of Flexamat. You're going to fill in with crushed stone and you're going to create a drivable surface like this.
Cool.
Small boat ramps, large boat ramps. This is Castle Rock Reservoir. This is lined because it's drinking water and they want to be able to get their John boats down to clean out their structures.
Here, see a lot more of these.
Yes, low water crossings. Okay, so that shiny thing in there holding it together, that is high strength stainless steel zip ties. So we don't want to use the U-shaped rebar anchors. First, takes a lot to get a rebar anchor through 2 layers of non-woven geotextile. And we don't want them breaking off and puncturing tires. So we use a high strength stainless steel zip tie to hold those mats together. Here it is being delineated where your drivable surface is. You can look real close. You can see the Flexamat underneath of it. I love this project. This was St. Louis MSD. Very smart design here because they were creating a channel and they knew that they were going to want to get in that channel to clean out these structures.
Pay attention, Steve Polk.
So they used Flexamat as the channel and the drivable surface. I thought this was two for one, Bill. Here's what that looked like after it was done.
Nice.
Here's what it looks like today.
Nice.
Pretty incredible. All looks green grass, still have drivable surfaces that you can drive right up to. So curb cuts are being used a lot for low impact development, reducing curb and gutter, but you still have to drain water from that parking lot down to your detention pond. If this is riprap, you have created different mowing zones, Bill.
Oh yeah, very trash,
very annoying.
Weeds.
You got to pop the curb on one side, mow one area,
pick up your mower, carry it across the riprap,
go over to the
triangle
side.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, you've basically broken this into
Shame on you if you did that.
Mowing zones. See, this is where he's getting fun, and then it just disappears.
That's good.
So, all right, Bill, pop quiz time.
That one, okay. He didn't let me see these ahead of time. That one should have been trenched in, keyed in, embedded, whatever you want to say, buried and covered with grout, so the water can't go into the mat.
Yeah. Okay, so we got 5 of these so far.
Oh boy, okay.
So far,
you're
acing this pop quiz. Yeah, what they didn't do here is they didn't bury that leading edge and got that transition. So water is going to hit that area, get underneath that mat.
That's going to get way bad fast.
Also, that's pretty flat for a channel. That's probably why you're seeing erosion on both sides.
Yep.
So again, you nailed it. We told the contractor exactly how to install it. We got to bury that leading edge and grout that. What went wrong?
Oh, you mentioned this. On a slope, you got to recess that channel. You have to have the water stay on the protection. Otherwise, water's not going to. If you had this whole thing graded flat and they thought it looked nice when they were done grading it, then they put the Flexamat on top. If I'm water, I show up and go, oh, I'm not getting on the Flexamat. I'm going down the side. Definitely avoiding the Flexamat.
If Bill is water, he's avoiding the Flexamat.
Yeah. 2 for 2.
There's a quote of the technical talk right there.
Bruce Lee, be water.
Know what you're doing here. Are we doing a channel? Or are we doing a slope? If we're protecting the slope, you need to cover a lot more ground than this. What we're doing is we're creating a channel. So let's do a defined channel. Recess that, keep that concentrated flow right in the center of the mat.
On that guy.
So how they're fixing this is they're going to pull up that top, cut down a little bit, and then they're going to have to, I guess, drive their Bobcat over the top of it, hoping for loose soil, try to press that down. They're going to have to build up the sides to guide
right the first time.
Exactly. So again, we told them exactly what to do here. So let your inspectors see these details, put these details in your plans so that a person seeing Flexamat for the first time knows what they're supposed to be doing on this project. What went wrong here, Bill?
Oh my gosh. Common sense is not common. That overlap should have been put down first, and you put the next roll on top of it, anchor it together.
Yeah, we're creating a system here. So I can tell which direction the water is supposed to be flowing on this project. It's supposed to be flowing from the right to the left of the screen. Your geogrid is on the right, so it goes underneath the mat next to it to create a system.
It's supposed to.
So yeah, if you're an inspector and you walk up and you see exposed geogrid,
you smack the guy. Oh no, you don't. You use your words and talk through it.
Yeah. I'm not smacking nobody.
I'm 3 for 3.
All right. So again, this is the detail. You can see the direction of flow in that bottom corner picture. So you know the geogrid goes underneath that mat next to it. It creates a shingle effect, holding the water and on top of the mat, holding the next mat down.
And you anchor them together. If you do a great job, they don't even know where the seam is.
Yeah.
Okay, what went wrong?
What went wrong here, Bill?
Oh, good grief.
So this is a flared end section
going that way.
This is an outlet going.
Number one, there's not enough protection. So that Flexamat's narrower than the flared end section.
You got it.
Should be 3 or 4 times as wide.
You got it.
And then it should also be recessed. It should be, the grading's not good.
The grading's not good. I mean, this should be a channel because you're conveying water from this flared end section.
He needs taken out back.
But most importantly, let's cover the area where the water is going to hit. That you can see the angle angle of that flared end section is going to project water directly onto the side.
I have so many other things to say that are derogatory and negative.
Again, we covered this earlier, a 48-inch outlet. This isn't a 48-inch outlet, but gets 16-foot wide.
4 times. I did that math in my head.
So again, this is probably a 24-inch outlet. We should be 8-foot wide here.
Yeah.
10 foot long.
Yep.
Okay, this is a trickier one.
How ironic. It looks to me, you're tricking me. I don't have I got new glasses. Seed blend, yeah, probably didn't use it right. Probably should have prepared that as a seed bed prep and got the ground ready and got it seeded to make sure we can get some vegetation established. That's part of it. And let's see what else. Yeah, that's mostly it. I would really make sure that they got that thing vegetated.
This is the city of Lee Summit.
No offense to them, they're wonderful friends. I wouldn't beat them at all.
This is their new police station that they just built. Our friend Carissa McMullen specified Flexamat because she knew that these curb cuts were going to be highly erosive. Plus, there's a creek running back behind there, and it flows full. She didn't want it affecting their parking lot area.
Well, it was.
So the issue that I find here, I walked up on this project. I had went to get some supplies from ASP, came back to the project, and I see that they've already unrolled the Flexamat, and I see an unopened bag of seed.
Oh no, is that what that is? I couldn't tell it was full.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I wondered.
Laying on its side, yeah.
We also have soil amendments. We can feed that soil and make sure it's fertilized properly, and even add jump start, whatever you want.
I mean, it's a great point that you make. You can rely on a lot of industry experts, like any one of the Hale Holdings distributors, to do free soil tests.
Oh, they love it.
Free.
Bunch of nerds.
Free.
Bunch of nerds.
That gets you a lot of data points. I've seen some of these free soil tests that provide more data points than tests that cost $200 to $300 from local universities.
Yeah.
So reach out to folks at ASP, Quick Supply, Bowman, Cascade. Ask them about doing a soil test so that you know that you're going to grow grass, first of all. But hey, let's also put down seed. So luckily, this was a small enough project.
He did put down seed. He put the bag of seed right on the ground.
He put
down the seed.
Yes. Put down the Flexamat before the seed. So luckily, it was a small enough project that they hauled in soil to do soil fill and seed from the top. But again, didn't have to be done. You can grow grass right up through it. Don't have to have that additional expense of bringing.
But that's not on the designer. Because I can tell you, Carissa, you know her, your friends and neighbors. She's awesome. She wanted this thing. Her vision was for this to be vegetated.
Yes.
Somebody just didn't communicate that to the boots on the ground.
100%. 100%.
How did I do? Hey, was that 5?
That was 5 for 5. High five.
Listen,
high five.
I've never high five for the 5 for 5. I've never done that well.
Again, I told everybody you're a Hall of Famer. So
that's hilarious.
Okay, so I always get asked about cost. So let's talk costs. Obviously, we don't control what a contractor is going to charge to install it. So let's look at some bid tabs here.
I don't like reading to the audience, but that might be hard for them to see if they're on a laptop like mine.
I was going to read it right now. 300 square feet. So this is a small project. Went for $10 a square foot installed. Here's a larger project. That one that I showed you with the s'more mascot.
So cool. The
vibe. And in Colorado Springs, that was 7,450 square feet, and that went for $7.92 installed. So obviously, there's a lot that goes into install, your soil and
especially if they do it right,
the grading, all of that. So that's all included in there. So
wait a minute, seriously?
That's all I have,
dude. You did way over 100 slides, and you're ahead of time. That's so awesome.
How far ahead am I?
Hey guys, jazz hands. I guess we can't see them, can we? I went to a friend of mine, one of my goddaughters. Was she in show choir? I guess they call it for high school. And man, her group knocked it out of the park. I was like, yeah. And I stood up and I clapped. And my family says I'm notorious for clapping way too loud. Some lady grabbed my shirt from behind. Another lady turned around in front and pointed so aggressively at me. I thought they were going to hit me. She was looking around. You see anybody else clapping? The whole place stops. They're looking at me. The kids on the stage are looking at me. Apparently, if you go to one of those, you're not supposed to actually clap.
Oh.
You're supposed to go like this, jazz hands. That's how you applaud for them, because you're not, it's a, I don't know, like respectful, classical, whatever, beautiful piece. You're not supposed to physically clap. And man, I did like I was at a monster truck rally or WWE event. My
Ooh,
family made fun of me for years that I about got beat up by
the next time
some
you
moms
see
and
me will
grandmas.
be in Fort Worth for IECA,
Oh
and I'm gonna be
yeah.
jacked.
When you're in my audience, you're gonna come to one of my
Yeah.
presentations.
Yeah.
Don't, I
Nope.
think that means
But
something
no.
else.
Let's see if you remember that.
Okay, next month, Ben Campbell agreed to join me. Similar to what we had with Todd and I this month, we couldn't do it last Wednesday because we had a conflict. Ben and I have a conflict the first Wednesday of December, so we're going to do one the last Wednesday, or sorry, the second Wednesday of December. Oh, sorry, that's a QR code. Use that to register for the next Technical Talks webinar. And that's our contact info, but out of respect to you, because you did such a good job, I'm going to back up and land on your slide for your contact info while I check Q&A.
Yeah.
So did you see that the screen change over here a few times?
No.
So we have some Q&A.
All right.
Oh, Maddie, dude, she's awesome. Madison Gibbler from Burns Mac.
Okay.
So she was one of the
Hi,
ones
Maddie.
we did the infiltration test for the permeable pavement.
Oh, I
years
remember.
ago.
I remember.
She's a stud. Is that shear stress graphic on your website for where you talked about the shear stress?
Yes. Yes,
For
it
the
is.
different materials and products?
Yes.
There it is. Answer live. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Madison. Excellent question. Chuck, he's a regular dude. He comes to all of them. Chuck says, what does the edge look like under the big block in the Flexamat? Oh yeah. So over there.
Hey, great question.
Airbase.
So what you didn't see for that project that we were doing in Lewisburg was they hadn't grouted that edge. Whenever you're doing a big block on the sides of Flexamat, we want that edge grouted too. Basically, whenever you're putting Flexamat next to a concrete structure, we want to chamfer those blocks in and then put a grouted edge.
Keep the water on top of the mat. Don't let it find a way.
The water is going to find those hard concrete surfaces and create turbulence in that area. So we want those areas grouted. Great question.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate you. And Ed Austin, you know Ed. Everybody knows Ed. So the vegetated mats do not have soil fill on top of the mat in the block joints. Okay, so that's an option.
That's an option. We showed that on the Lee Summit project. Not necessary. The vast majority of projects, 99.9% of projects, seed, prepare your subgrade, layer of seed, unroll Flexamat over the top of it. And then vegetation grows up through it. If you want a more finished look faster, you can soil fill it and put seed and seed from the top.
And Madison Gibbler, showing off, 2 questions. Why didn't KDOT replace the discharge swale riprap with Flexamat on that Norton Bridge project? Oh yeah, so you run into that sometimes where there's still Flexamat, or sorry, riprap might still be on a project even if you're on there.
Yeah, Maddie. I mean, we can't take over the world. We take what we can get. No, I mean, you heard me discuss it on the same project that we did in Lenexa with that park project where we did the flame resistant geogrid. I mean, those outlets could have also been Flexamat instead of riprap. It's you take you take the opportunity wherever you can get it, and then hopefully it just grows from there.
It does. And I'll tell you, one of the things I'm blessed with, Madison, is we have so many different solutions, like we showed at the beginning here with the intro. And a lot of our projects become hybrid solutions. So even if we have some great transition mats like Flexamat or some high performance turf reinforcement mats or some other solutions, we sometimes have several different solutions on the same slope, same project. And we work with engineers, landscape architects, contractors all the time to come up with those. So we make recommendations. They may not fully take our entire recommendation. They may take part of it. We just make it work. Like you talk about all the time in your presentations. You can look at projects where somebody didn't communicate, coordinate, or pause and think it through, and they just could have done one thing better, and it could have made the entire project more successful.
100%. We do layouts, shop drawings up front, pre-bid, and get them to a contractor so that they don't find out that it's going to take much more material to accomplish the project than the bid quantity. So we'd like to get them that information up front. That information doesn't always end up in front of the people that are doing the installation. So the person that's operating that equipment a lot of times hasn't seen that layout. They're getting 8 truckloads of Flexamat delivered that go in an area that's a giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
They need that picture from the box to show them where it goes in and how it's installed.
They do. And I think, guys, one of the things I've learned as a 30-some year engineer, That's crazy. Is never be too proud to ask questions, even if you think it might be a stupid question or obvious question. Just ask, and it doesn't. You don't have to always ask up. Like people think, oh, I got to ask an engineer or somebody with a title. No, you don't. Ask the guy that's standing on the ground when somebody else is running the bucket, because he might have an idea that says, hey, man, we should have overlapped the flex mount on top of that grid.
Yeah.
Somebody would have asked him, he probably would have went, yeah, I thought that. He probably got in his truck, drove home that night and thought, I'm pretty sure we did that wrong.
Yeah.
Just take a beat, I think they say, and pause and just talk through it. I think a lot of times we can solve problems that way. This helps us because you're getting us at the next level past the 101. Okay, guys, I see a couple more questions. I'll get to those in writing. Thank you. And Todd, one last thing. I will say, even though she doesn't know me, a shout out to your wife, because for this last year, this journey you've been on, she's been right there with you. And it's kind of fun to hear stories of you've gotten to take her to Colorado or whatever.
Yeah.
But man, you took this opportunity with Flexamat and you've just skyrocketed. I think you've done an awesome job. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, no, again, it's the shout out that I gave to the engineer that spec'd it 19 years ago. That's heartfelt because that took me on a journey that led me to where I am today. So a lot of times it may not just be specing an erosion control product
Yeah.
for a project. It may lead to somebody discovering something
Yeah.
and a career 20
Yeah.
years later. So
Yeah, that's so cool.
yeah,
And you never know, guys. Just
thank
be
you.
kind to each other, and who knows where our opportunities are going to lead. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.